from censorship now to political violence, the media and the administration, they're not turning down the temperature in this race one bit, but they're looking for both.
Oh, yeah. No, and they really aren't. And we've gotten this sort of strange thing where we have the pre-election election denying, which I think is a first. But the other thing that we have, and obviously, you know, politicians always sort of shade the truth and don't always speak honestly. But what is so alarming, what's so astounding about this is to listen to the Biden administration and to listen to these Democrats lie to people's faces and tell them what they know is going on in their own personal lives is not going on. It not only does it belittle those people, but it also completely destroys their credibility. And I agree with you. I think this is a great realignment, but I think it's even more than this. I think that what Joe Biden is doing to the Democrat Party right now and what Democrats are doing to that party right now is a generational damage that could take 10 years, could take decades for them to recover because nobody believes what they're saying anymore.
That is an excellent point. Now, Ben, the big news today out of Pennsylvania was that the Fetterman campaign is now suing to have undated and misdated ballots counted. And apparently some aren't signed either. Now, they argue that the handwritten date requirement is just a technicality and not used to determine whether the votes were legally cast, and that throwing them all out violates federal civil rights laws. Ben, this is another desperate move on the part of the Democrats.
Yes, but it's also totally predictable. I mean, they're completely hypocrites on all of this stuff. But one of the things that I think, and this is such a great point that Charlie just made, the ramifications of what we're seeing going on, the realignment that you talked about, we are talking about a sweeping away of a generation of Democratic leadership that has dominated in Washington. It has controlled and directed their party. And what we're going to see is not just them swept away, but a whole group of Gen Xers as well who were supposed to take the reins swept away. People like Tim Ryan, Beto O'Rourke. I went back and calculated over $200 million has been spent over the last 10 years on Beto O'Rourke, on trying to make Beto happen. He's not happening.
Talk about white privilege.
He's going to get clobbered. Stacey Abrams is going to get completely swept away by Brian Kemp. And I think that one of the things that we should understand here is we are going to move to a Democratic Party very quickly that is all being led by these millennial girl boss energy types. And that's going to be crazy town in terms of what they're going to offer to the country and what they're going to say. So as much as I think, you know, you had this whole false approach by Joe Biden to return to normalcy, the actual result of his policies and this terrible White House is going to be an even crazier, more leftist Democratic Party.
Well, to your point about how the old dinosaurs are kind of going to be pushed off the stage or lumber off the stage, Nancy Pelosi was on CNN tonight being interviewed by Anderson Cooper. It seemed like she was, to me, her body language, aside from the fact she said she never spoke about the attack with her husband, which, you know, that was an interesting comment, but she seemed like she was on her way out, to me. I mean, not that she's just going to defeat it, but she was going to leave. That was my sense.
Well, certainly the body language would suggest that. But the fact that they don't speak openly about it, and I get it, it's ahead of the election, so maybe it's sort of difficult.
Yeah.
But it goes to the heart of destroying that whatever credibility they have left. And and honestly, I really don't. You know, how are they going to respond to this election? Are they going to learn a lesson? Are they going to do?
That's the big thing. No lessons will be learned. No lessons will be
None.
learned. They have convinced themselves we are having this moral stand-up thing in defense of democracy, and it's just a bunch of fascists and racists who are going to come beat them. You know, the problem, of course, is that this is going to be one of the most diverse coalitions Republicans have ever formed.
The old talking points don't work anymore.
It doesn't work anymore. No one believes that. People understand that. I mean, when you see the governor of New York come out and say that, you know, it's just hysterical to complain about crime, you know, Black, Hispanic, and Asian Americans in these New York communities who have seen the increases in crime, they know that that's a lie. They see right through it, and they aren't going to be called racist in order for because of their actually pointing it out.
Charlie, we talked about how politicians tend to lose their mojo over time when they stay in the game too long. I never thought I'd say this about Obama, but we played a little bit of the angle, but he dropped a particularly unhinged line over the weekend. Watch.
When true democracy goes away, people get hurt. It has real consequences. This is not an abstraction. Dissidents start getting locked up. Reporters start getting locked up if they're not towing the party line. Corruption reigns because there's no accountability.
Charlie, he was successful to the extent he was because he was able to keep the far left at bay. He was for traditional marriage, all the old days of Obama. He kept them kind of a little bit at arm's length, but now it's like Katie bar the door.
He's such a liar. And of course, Barack Obama never would have run on the campaign that Joe Biden has run. And he never would have won re-election, except that, his 2008 campaign was a brilliant campaign. It was hopeful, but from that moment on, it has been darkness and dishonesty from him. And listen, in that clip you played earlier where he's talking about, if we had the majority in 2014, they had a filibuster-proof majority for 2 years at the beginning of his term. If he wanted to fix immigration then, he could have done it. They could have done anything they wanted to, and they failed to do it.
And they didn't want to do it.
Right.
They didn't want to do it. They wanted to keep the issue.
And they wanted to take over a sixth of the economy because there was more money in it for him.
But his whole, imagine if this had, it's
God.
like an old lounge act. It's like, imagine if I was still.
He's an aging
It was
rocker.
like Spinal Tap. Imagine if the stadium was still full and I wasn't playing like a circle in the round, theater in the round. Charlie and Ben, great to see you both on set here.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.